Now that we know what the staff is, who the GM is, and who the head coach is, let's do our very first mock offseason. What is going on, guys? Welcome back to Talking Jets with Tigo. My name is Tigo, and today we're going to be doing an entire mock offseason. We're going to go and talk about every player that I would sign, every restructure, every cut, everything. And at the end of the video, we are going to do an entire 7-round mock draft, reacting and going into that draft as if we had just had this offseason and seeing how we walk away. Guys, this video took a ton of work. So if you appreciate the work and the content that is coming on the Talking Jets with Tigo channel, please don't forget to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. It is absolutely free, and stick around because we're going to be doing a bunch of member giveaways this draft season. So stay tuned and hit the notification bell to be notified when all of that stuff happens. Let's not waste any more time. Let's hop in and let's talk about the New York Jets, and more importantly, what are their needs going into this draft? And as you can see from either side of me, I have gone through our roster and kind of evaluated what positions the New York Jets should possibly be targeting this offseason. This list is never going to change on any of the future videos that I do. This list is, in my opinion, pretty accurate. We're going to need a wide receiver to kind of fill in that gap for wide receiver 3. I think that there is a realistic expectation that we need 2 tight ends. We know we're going to need a right tackle because we currently don't have one, and we need more depth on the interior of the offensive line. So I think those are needs there on the offensive side of the ball. And on the defensive side of the ball, we're going to need to get a brand new safety room. And this expectation that we're going to go and get 4 brand new safeties, I don't think is realistic. I think there are some guys on the roster that are going to stick around and they can be backups and projects and things like that. But we definitely probably need 2 starters. We definitely need 2 interior defensive linemen, someone who can sit there next to Quinnen Williams, and then a backup for that guy. We're definitely going to need 2 cornerbacks. We're going to need someone to be on the opposite side of Sauce Gardner, and then a backup as well. We're going to need someone to replace a lot of the talent that we're expected to lose in the edge room, and we're going to need to get a new linebacker. So how do we address all of these needs? What can the New York Jets do to move it forward? Well, let's start with creating cap space, because the first thing you're going to have to do is create cap space so that you can maneuver, and you are the availability of being able to work with the players that you currently have control over and that you can actually have conversations with gives you the time to work out those deals. So let's talk about restructures. The first restructure we're going to do is we're going to go under the assumption that we're going to keep Aaron Rodgers, and that's what Aaron Glenn wants. We're going to do a couple of these where we don't keep Aaron Rodgers, but this is what it might look like if we keep Aaron Rodgers. And so if we keep Aaron Rodgers, I think the thing that you do is you keep Aaron Rodgers and you restructure his bonus from $37.5 million down to $20 million to give you cap relief and, more importantly, dead cap relief in the future. That gives you space this year, but also lessening the brunt of the force of what he's going to hit when he leaves next year. Now, why are we doing this? What is the point of doing this? One, he has this bonus. It is the only money that's left to get paid out to him. And this bonus is going to be a majority of what the dead cap hit is for Aaron Rodgers in the future. He's already mentioned that he's willing to rework his bonus. And because this bonus hasn't been paid out to him, it can be negotiated. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to restructure this bonus down from the 38 to 20, giving us $17.5 million back. Aaron Rodgers is coming back to the New York Jets, which I think is probably the best case scenario for the long-term quarterback prospects of this football team, because the 2026 draft is much, much better. Davante Adams is going to stay, and we're going to restructure his cap hit down from 38 all the way down to 12. There's no way that Davante Adams is going to stick at that $38 million cap hit number. And the good thing is that the restructuring doesn't really mortgage your future with Devontae Adams' deal, which is really, really nice. And a majority of that cap hit will be in 2027 when we get out from under the Aaron Rodgers cap hit in 2026. So spreading out some of those dead caps while still maintaining competitive viability for this football team. And then the last one is just to give a good chunk of space, and we don't necessarily have to do this one, but it is an option, and I chose to take it, is we're going to restructure Quinnen Williams from his $21 million cap hit down to $29 million contract, and that's it. Those are the only contracts that we're going to touch in terms of restructures this year, and that gives us more than enough cap space to do anything and everything that we're going to want to do. But there are some players on this roster that have no business being on this roster. So let's jump right in to the cuts, and we're going to go real quick, real simple. We're cutting Greg Zuerlein, and it saves us $2.5 million. We're cutting Alan Lazard to save $6.6 million. We're cutting Michael Clemens to save $3.3 million. And then I have Jeremy Ruckert here, apparently misspelled, with an asterisk over his name. Why is there an asterisk over his name? Well, because $1.3 million, that is a significant amount of money, but it is not a cut that I think we need to do before the draft. And I think that's the key here. Jeremy Ruckert has not been good enough to stay on this roster, and he's the only tight end on this roster. And we're going to address that when we go into our signings and our extensions and things like that. But if we can find a better solution at tight end in free agency and in the draft, Jeremy Ruckert is definitely going to be a cut candidate. And in this situation, I'm going to keep him on the roster until after the draft and make that decision, but let you guys know that there is an option to do that. Now, with all of the restructures and all of the cuts that we've made, we have created a whopping $78.5 million worth of cap space this year for the New York Jets, and we're going to start using some of that money to load up and really make a push with this football team to make the playoffs and make some noise and to do all of those things. We're not rolling over and dying in a rebuild. We're going all in, and we're going to make sure that we do it while making smart moves so that we can stay competitive post Aaron Rodgers. And let's talk about the players that I want to bring back. Players that are going to leave. They are free agents, but I want them back on this football team, and there are quite a few of those guys. Number one is Morgan Moses. Morgan Moses has been nothing but a professional with the New York Jets the first time around and the second time around. And while Morgan Moses is not at a position of health or even his age where you can come in and say, okay, Morgan Moses, you're our starting right tackle. Morgan Moses is more than good enough to be a guy that you say, hey, right now you're the plan at right tackle, but we're going to evaluate and we're going to see if we can find a guy in the draft to take that job from you, and you're going to be our veteran swing tackle. And that's exactly what we need. If you look at our offensive line room right now, a ton of young guys. Let's get a veteran in there, and a veteran that's kind of an Iron Man, is always available, always ready to play. And if you were to tell me, hey, we weren't able to find a guy in the draft and you need to start Morgan Moses, I'm not that upset with Morgan Moses as the starting right tackle for the New York Jets. He was by far and away not the biggest problem on the O-line last year. That was clearly Tyron Smith, but that would give us some stability there. Another person that I would bring back, because you can't just not have anybody in your tight end room, I would bring back Kenny Yeboah, give him the same deal he signed last year, 1 year, $1.5 million. It's not that big of a commitment. He's a special teams guy, so he can play there. And let's see what a new staff can do with Kenny Yeboah, and it just gives us some options there. Then I'm going to skip Sherwood. We'll talk about Sherwood in a second. I would extend Brandon Echols. I think Brandon Echols is more than good enough to be on the other side of Sauce Gardner on our cornerback room. We saw when he played, how well he played, and the fact that he tends to, when he plays, get interceptions. Now, the contract and the contract term and the contract value is a prove it. Hey, we're going to go under the assumption that you're going to be our starting corner. If we get a better option and we get a better opportunity, we're going to take it. But it's going to be a competition, and you're going to have an ability to go out there, compete, and if you're better than the other guy, you're going to be our starting corner, and then you can, after that, go and get your big payday. But we're going to sign Brandon Echols with an eye to the draft to be like, if we can make Echols a backup, That's an ideal situation. And then we're just going to bring back special teamer Irvin Charles. He's a free agent, 1 year, $1 million. Real simple there. But the big signing, big guy that is currently on our roster that's going to walk away, that we're going to go out and keep, is Jamien Sherwood. According to a bunch of different things, you're going to see a bunch of different numbers for Jamien Sherwood. And Jamien Sherwood was one of the best tacklers in the NFL last year. And when you look at how Aaron Glenn and Steve Wilks likes to build up their defense, they like aggressiveness. They like building back to front, and that's exactly what we're going to do here by keeping Jamien Sherwood. Letting a top linebacker that you developed, that you drafted, walk away is absolutely absurd, and you're going to have to believe that Aaron Glenn and that Moogs and that Steve Wilks are going to see the value of one of the top linebackers and keeping him around, especially on that deal. So I would give Jamien Sherwood a 3-year, $33 million deal. And that's right on par with some of the linebackers. I think the guy who went to the Texans, who I don't think is as good as Jamien Sherwood, got around this deal. So did some research there. Now let's get into the numbers and to the players that I know that you all care about. Who are our guys that aren't free agents, that are available for an extension that we're going to keep around? Let's not waste any time. Draft picks about to get paid. So let's start with the easiest one on the bottom of the list here. Jermaine Johnson, all we're going to do is we're going to exercise his 5th-year option. That's it. I don't expect Jermaine Johnson to be on this team beyond his 5th-year option, but let's at least take his 5th-year option, keep him around for another 2 years so that we have some stability and some long-term stability, at least, at the edge position while we can maneuver around that spot over the next couple of drafts. Elijah Vera Tucker going into his 5th-year option. Let's not forget that the 5th-year option is fully guaranteed. So right now, Elijah Vera Tucker is expected to hit the cap with $15.3 million, a $15.3 million cap hit. Well, I think that we can adjust that. I think that we can address that. And by extending Elijah Vera Tucker and giving him a 4-year, 61-ish million dollar deal, that still gets him the $15 million that he was guaranteed to get in his 5th-year option, but gives the New York Jets some wiggle room in lowering that cap number this year if we need him. And I think Elijah Vera Tucker was probably one of our, if not our best offensive linemen last year for the New York Jets. His ability to play anywhere on the offensive line, if you need him to be. You need him to move to right tackle, he's going to do it. You need him to play at left tackle, he's going to do it. You need him to play at left guard, he's going to do it. He can just play everywhere on the offensive line. He showed us this year that, you know what, he can play, he can be healthy, and I think he played almost every game this year. So with that, we're going to reward him for that, and I'm going to give him an extension. Moving on, we're going to extend Sauce Gardner, and we're going to give him essentially the Patrick Surtain deal. Patrick Surtain just got paid, and we're going to give Sauce Gardner that deal as well. 4-year, $84 million contract. Puts him right in and around $21-ish million per year, and that puts him right where he should be, especially in a new Aaron Glenn and Steve Wilks type defense where we're going to be predominantly playing cover one, and you're going to have Sauce Gardner in his preferred situation, which is man coverage. I expect Sauce Gardner, who already had a really good first 2 years, to excel even more under Steve Wilks and Aaron Glenn in their style of defense and finally take care of some of those issues that we know are just coaching problems, because hopefully we've got better coaches on the New York Jets. And last but not least, the big one, we're just going to give Garrett Wilson the Devontae Smith contract. We're not going to talk about 5th-year options. We're not going to talk about anything right now, because if we wanted to, we could just take the 5th-year option and we could take a franchise tag twice and he wouldn't. No. I'm not messing around. Garrett Wilson is going to get the Devontae Smith contract. I think this is, I would even be willing to go a little bit more than the Devontae Smith contract. 3-year, $75 million per. That puts him at $25 million a year. I'd be willing to go into the 60+% of it being fully guaranteed, and that gives him that, like, hey, dude, we're committed to you. You're not going to have to sit here and make $8 million, which is, I think, what his no. We're going to pay you. We're going to give you the contract that you're worth. We're going to build this offense and this team around you in the future. We're making moves. We want to be competitive. and you're a part of that plan. And I think this deal will appeal to Garrett Wilson because he can come back to the market and get paid again sooner rather than later. And so I think it works for both parties. We get to keep our guy happy and have control over him and not have to worry about any trade requests or anything like that, and showing the commitment to him, while also, he gets happy knowing that, if I do commit to the New York Jets, at least it won't be for a super long time if the whole thing falls apart. But that's not going to happen. And those are all of the guys that we're going to be extending. Every single move. And now let's go into free agency. Free agency is going to be real quiet for the New York Jets in terms of players that are going to play a big role. Only 3 players, but we're going to take a big swing on one of those players. We'll start with the easy moves. Zach Ertz, 1 year, $4 million. I think Zach Ertz showed us with the Commies last year that he's still good enough of a tight end to be there. I'm not signing Zach Ertz to be tight end 1, but if we can't find a tight end in the draft, if we can't do anything, Zach Ertz is at least good enough to play tight end for the New York Jets, but I really want to go in this draft and bring in a guy. We're also going to go get interior defensive lineman Levi Onwuzurike. He is formerly of the Detroit Lions and is an interior defensive lineman that can come in and at least give us a body on the interior of the defensive line. 2-year, $10 million, real easy then there. And then we're going to take a big swing. I mentioned it earlier, how Steve Wilks and Aaron Glenn believe in building their defenses back to front. We're going to cover so well that our guys are going to get home instead of the way that Robert Saleh believed, which is we're going to create so much pressure that those guys aren't going to be able to get open. And because of that, we're going to take a massive, massive swing at safety, and we're going to go get one of the best pressure blitzing safeties right now that's available, Trevon Moehrig. He is a guy that is going to fit into Steve Wilks' plans of sending pressure, sending bodies forward. He can play in the box, and I think that's exactly where we're going to play him. He can also drop into coverage if we need him. That's not his strong suit, but I want to target a true free safety in the draft, and I just want to get a guy who's going to be able to step in the box, is really good coming downhill when it comes to supporting the run game. The New York Jets are going to be a football team that are going to finally stop the run, and Trevon Moehrig is a really, really good, sure tackling safety who's good in and around the box, good creating pressure, and can cover if you need be, if you're sending the other safety in on pressure or a cornerback or whatever it is. 4-year, $60 million deal puts him in and around $15 million per. Big swing on a free agent signing here at safety, something that we wouldn't have seen in the old regime, but I really, really do like this move. And that, I believe, is everybody. That is all of the signings. That is all of the everything that we're going to do in free agency, and leaves us in a spot where we have to go into the draft and address a couple of spots. And let's just see how the draft plays out after we've done this. I've got my cheat sheet right here. Let's see how it goes out. The New York Jets are at 7, and the best case scenario for the New York Jets plays out. Tet McMillan is available for the New York Jets, and there is no world in which I pass on a guy like Tet McMillan. He is an absolute stud, monster size, 6'5", 212, insane body control, catches anything within a zip code of him, and provides us with a different skill set from Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams. We're competing, and we're going to try to make things happen. Tet McMillan, you are a New York Jet. Going into the draft even more, now we're in the second round, and we're starting to have to look at, okay, we need a right tackle. But this is a good offensive line class. Hey, we need a tight end. Well, this is a good tight end class. But I do think that we do need an interior defensive lineman at all costs. But we did just sign Levi Onwuzurike, and he is good enough to start. And I am still a big believer in Leonard Taylor III. And so I'm going to pivot. I'm going to take the safety. We need a starting safety. We don't have one. Xavier Watts, the safety out of Notre Dame, I'm going to go and get him because we need him. We need a guy to come in immediately. And boom, one of the highest risers. If you didn't see him at the Senior Bowl, what are you doing? Harold Fannin Jr., the tight end out of Bowling Green, absolutely showed up in a big, big way for his drafts, stock, I guess is the best way to say it, at the Senior Bowl, doing a ton of really, really good things. We'll see how he continues to test out, but his tape, his Senior Bowl, all of those stuff, really, really good. And this is great value for him here in the third. Keeping it going in the fourth round for the New York Jets. Let's remember, we've taken a wide receiver, a safety, and a tight end. I want to go back to the defensive side of the ball here, and I want to continue addressing the defense. So let's get some defensive coverage. Let's see if there's anyone that's providing any value here that I look at and I go, you know what? This guy's a stud. I want to go and get this guy. And there isn't really a ton of names that are sticking out in a big, big way. Let's look at the interior defensive linemen. Let's look if there's any big fatties here that are just going to, that are just run-stopping machines that can just take up space. That's good value right around here. Doesn't seem to be like there's anyone here. Anus Peebles might be good, but the value's not great. Let's look at the edge. We do need some help and some depth at the edge. Elijah Roberts might be a guy. That's, I think, where we're going to go. I think we're going to go Elijah Roberts. Big boy, can play on the end, can bump inside if you need him. Kind of's going to fill that role, hopefully in a better way that Michael Clemens played. Elijah Roberts is coming to the New York Jets, and we address the edge position there. Love the value there. And like I said, he can play a little bit of both. Now, I want to go back and I want to try to see if there are any interior offensive linemen that really scream out to me. Miles Frazier is a guy that was doing really, really good things at the Senior Bowl, if I'm getting my names there correct, but the value is just not right there right now. Are there any interior defensive linemen that made it through that I want to go look at? Shamar Turner, 6'4", 300. I'm looking for, you know what? CJ West, big boy, run stuffer, boom. Big fatty there in the middle in the fifth round, and we get that. Now, I know I'm going to get yelled at by a lot of you guys, because you're going to be like, what in the world are you doing? You know what? I'm going to do it with my next pick. I got to address the offensive line here. We got to get somebody, and we're going to get somebody. Let's see if there's anybody here that I feel really, really confident in. Johnny Cornelius was playing pretty good at the Senior Bowl. That's the guy I'm going to take. I know that they're not going to love this pick. And yeah, they're not going to love this pick. But you know what? At this point in the draft, it's all about getting guys that you feel like are going to be a good value. And Denzel Burke is good value. Denzel Burke is good value. Oh, man. Okay, I'm going to go Denzel Burke, the cornerback, and then hope that our guys are going to be available. The guys that I want to take, interior offensive linemen. Nope, not interior. Let's say the tackles, offensive tackles. Or Johnny Cornelius made it. That's the guy that I wanted to take. Boom. We get a right tackle. We get a cornerback. And is there an interior offensive lineman that I feel super comfortable with right here? No, not really. And if I'm going to take anything, I'm going to take a kicker. I'm taking Ryan Fitzgerald. He's the best kicker in the nation right now. You have to address the kicking position. We cut Greg Zuerlein. You have to. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Let's look at this. And here is our mock draft. Tet McMillan in the first, Xavier Watts in the second, Harold Fannin in the third, Elijah Roberts in the fourth, CJ West in the fifth with Denzel Burke, Johnny Cornelius, and Ryan Fitzgerald to round out the bottom end of the draft. PFF gave the draft a And that's because they don't love the value of kicker, just because they have him ranked as the 132nd prospect. And they also don't, I think, have the New York Jets needing a tackle. But honestly, if this was the offseason that we did, I would feel really, really, really comfortable with how it went. Johnny Cornelius is a guy that can, I think, immediately come in and compete with Morgan Moses for that right tackle spot. CJ West immediately starts coming in and rotating in and out with Levi and Leonard Taylor and all of the guys that we have there. We address positions that we definitely needed starters in. Xavier Watts comes in and plays starter at safety. Tet McMillan comes in and he is now a starting wide receiver. Harold Fannin now comes in and hopefully is tight end one. I love this draft. So, guys, let me know in the comment section below, what do you guys think of this draft? Do you like this offseason? What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comment section below. I had a blast doing this. It was a ton of work, but I loved doing every bit of it. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. And last but not least, go Jets.